Excellent. Well, welcome to the Masterclass, second to last Masterclass of the season. We're going to do one more in 2 weeks with Brett Wiggins, but really excited about what was designed to be the grand finale. Evan Keller joining us here, and he wanted to be with us about 5 weeks ago, but baby Louie is being born. So we're excited that baby Louie is here and healthy, and Larkin and Lars have a baby brother, so it's a good day. And going to Palm Springs after this call, so we're gonna keep it tight like a tiger. Welcome. We've got a couple Canadians on the call, actually 3, including me. So as always, Katarina Martins, since discovering the Masterclass, has not gone without. David showing up early, and love having you here. And Hans, who has, I think, only missed one due to an actual meeting and has no kids at home and still find a way to be here today. So also J. Brad Britton has entered the chat. Oh, it's a good day. Hey, without further ado, listen, if you don't know Evan Keller, you need to know Evan. I would strongly recommend his CLSK podcast. I'll put that up, Changing Lives, Selling Knives. If you just search Evan Keller on Vector Connect, you're going to come up with some outstanding content. He, for me, is one of my favorite, most authentic and genuine speakers that we have in the business. You know, we were talking the other day about how the good guys have taken over. All the good guys have taken over, and they're winning cups and showing up for master classes. And I count Evan Keller as one of those very good guys. And he's the South Coast division manager, just in case you're new here to Evan Keller. But any of the content that I've ever had him get into, whether it be at a round table, be it SLC, or even just one-on-one conversations, man, he's got a ton of great stuff here for you. I do know that he's got some prepared slides, but we're also prepared to go any and all directions here today. So without further ado, I give you my friend, division manager, Evan Keller.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you all. Brad, it's nice to see you too. Trent was talking about the good guys, and that's you, man. So it's good to see everybody. Some of you I know some faces, some of you I don't. I just want to make sure everybody can hear me well enough. I'm pleased to be here. I'm actually pleased to know that I wasn't the final Trent, like all the pressure's off. Now this is good. So everything's on Mr. Wiggins, but I'm going to talk about something that's really come up for us since we started to do everything virtually, and just basically a pivot for us from last summer to this summer, and where we're at. So I'm going to give all of you a very brief backstory on all of that, and just talk about where our focus was in terms of developing my pilot staff, and then that's trickled to developing our division staff. So what I was going to dig into today was basically 2 topics. One was bringing on and onboarding assistant managers. And so I thought this is timely for a couple of reasons, because we're going to get an onslaught of great people that we're going to try to get into the pipeline. But then also, Katarina, you probably have a few people that you might have your eyes on, and you're just, I need to get them in the system quick. You know, I have some district managers that are going, I don't want this ship to burn this summer. Like, I got to get some people on staff right away. And then I have AMs, certain DMs that are really chock full of staff, which was different than last summer. So after I talk about that, I was going to just share a couple of ideas about managing agreements and accountability. And then maybe that spins off into a conversation, or, we can talk about whatever is needed for this group. So some quick backstory for me, just like all of us, we were surprised by everything that happened, and we had to make a lot of pivots. Unfortunately, when things changed in February and March for us in the pilot, we had I'll use the word exodus. Yeah, that's a good word. From a lot of our leadership that was going to be on there. So Bianca, we had, staffers that were in place. I had branch managers like, you're key to go up, and the wheels came off the cart. So last summer, we actually ended up in a situation where it was myself and my DOM, or my PSM. And that was it. And David, that was a challenge. I felt like it was back in the beginning of my career where I just didn't have a lot of people to support. And so we were stretched impossibly thin for the summertime. And I imagine that everybody can relate. And even if you're going to go out and run your first organization, we all know what that feels like. But you don't want to feel it again. So my motivation, Hans, between that happening, like in September when I'm having a conversation with Dan Cassetta, right, who I think is on here. I'm like, hey, Dan, I'm never doing this again. Like, this is never happening for me in the pilot. And it was my first summer really having that experience since '08 when we opened. So we really made the efforts to dig into our staff. So come full circle to where we are now, the situation has changed for us where I just wrapped up my pilot staff meeting and we had 11 participants on, 9 of which are like locked and loaded for the summer that have said, yeah, Evan, we're rocking. And I have my Dom. And it's going to be a completely different ball game in the pilot where I'll feel like we'll be able to compete at the new business level with some of the other juggernauts in our vector world, you know. So I'm really excited about that. And then what I'm going to share with you today on how we kind of onboard and we're getting people in the pipeline is just be very clear with what we're doing for our process of identification to get people into the funnel, and then how we're onboarding our assistant managers. Trent, I don't know what's best for this, but like I have recorded conversations on my YouTube. So I don't know if that would be, I won't be able to grab the links now, but I guess anybody could just find my YouTube. And so I have a recorded like onboarding of a conversation with one of my new AMIs, then getting promoted in the schedule. So Katerina, you might find that of value and just what we're talking about with those individuals along the way. So I'm gonna be speaking on that today. Thanks, Stu. I appreciate that. Okay, I need a couple more subscribers here. So I'm gonna share my screen with everybody, and hopefully this will come up nice and clear. This okay for everybody? So I wanted to talk about bringing on assistant managers, and what I've really pinpointed is, and this isn't anything new, is just if I have people in the pipeline of my pilot, then we're going to have deployment for the next summer, you know, period, the end. Like I want them to go through a summer. In a perfect world, I want an AM to go through the summertime before I deploy them. I am also very aware of that as a DVM is what is my AM count going to be in May? What's my AM count going to be in June, July, August? So that's going to be our new pool of development. And whether you're a DVM or a DM, I think it's important to be thinking in terms of that as like, how many assistant managers do I want to make sure are in the pool? Because there's going to be some attrition, and hopefully you don't experience a mass exodus like I did, but you'll probably experience something like that, Madeline, in your career at some point, right? You'll have a fallout of your staff and you're going to want to rebuild quickly. So this is our process for doing that. Here's my challenge for you. This isn't, I don't need feedback in the chat or anything, but would you, Rob, be able to explain to another district manager your process for AM development in your division? Okay, so I just want everybody to think about that for a while. And do you feel confident about doing that? Like Hans, could you describe that to another district manager in the Bay Area division or the Tennessee division, right? Could you make that very clear for them? And if you can articulate this properly, I think you're in a good place. It's a good start. And then my question for you, Bianca, is do you have some type of visuals to help people understand this? And are your people seeing it all the time? So what I experienced is that we needed to do more visuals, more slides, more help for the events that we were running in the organization so that people were more clear about where they needed to go. Now, if any of you feel at all like there's something unclear about this, my to-do for you out of the masterclass is, you know, link arms with your DVM and just make sure that there is a clear process. And then also you're going to have some nuance to your process as well. So Katerina, the way you talk to people is going to be different than Hans and different than Rob, et cetera. So like what you need for your organization and at your time. If you're a newer manager, you know, I just took what my DVM gave me and ran with it, you know, and that was easy. But as I developed as a district manager, certainly I found my methods and my ways that were inside the frame of my division, because it was important that we were speaking the same language and singing the same song and one heartbeat type of thing. So some ideas for you is this is more of going to be like, what's your process of identification for people, and how quickly and early are you talking about the AM opportunity and your position? So we start in the interview process where we just have a small plug for this, that we're looking for leadership positions. In fact, Rob, at the end of the interview, if you have interest in leadership positions, make sure you mention that to me at the end, so that way we would know. Like something very simple like that, where I tried to pull over the things that we did in person and make them on virtual, because what we used to do is have people write David, or they would write L at the top of their acceptance criteria. So just, hey, if you have interest in leadership, just put an L at the top so that we know, and we can talk about how people have fast tracked into those opportunities. Okay. Another thing that I would recommend with this process of identification is, when you're talking about it early, is, do you have some kind of promotion for this in training? Do you have some kind of promotion for this at AT1? And then for us, it's a loop at our team meeting. So I'll show you our slide, but we're always making sure we loop through this process so people are clear about it. And then in addition to that, Katerina, our PCs and our whether it's a WhatsApp back and forth, it's a PC, it's a PDI conversation, a live phone call. Hey, David, we have opportunities for leadership. Do you have any interest in that? Like, where are you at with that? And just making sure that that's incorporated. Lexi, how early can you do it? I think it depends philosophically. Some managers are going to differ. Like, hey, they need to be done with their fast start, or they need to be 3 weeks on the job, or whatever. I just have it earlier, because if Lexi says, yeah, Evan, I am interested, well, there's an extra button that I can push in their fast start, right? So I'm more looking, Lexi, not necessarily for your results. I know you're going for, $5,000 in your fast start. I'm more looking for your attitude, your responsiveness, how hard you work during your fast start, because those are things that are going to separate you. Because selling Cutco, Bianca, is super easy. We're going to show you how to do that. But what's hard to train is attitude, work ethic, and interest. So if you're already there, you're off to a great start. I'm actually going to move you onto a list for me, Lexi, of like people that I want to pay attention to. All right. So let's go out and kick some butt for your fast start contest. Let's revisit the conversation. So something like that you're incorporating earlier on in the process, I think can just make sure that you're, filling that funnel earlier. All right. So very simple idea, but just be considering what your process for identification is for these people. So that's certainly a good start. For all of you, journaling exercise might be valuable for you to actually write this whole thing out, right? Where am I going to talk about this? Where am I going to promote it? How am I going to promote it? What slides am I going to build for this? And making sure that this process is talked about regularly. And then I think what's important for someone like Hans, who's becoming established as a juggernaut district manager in the West, is, does your staff understand this process as well? Because that's the thing that you want to start making sure that you're scaling and passing on. So as far as our process that we promote in my division, this is our conversation. Okay. So this slide is shared at team meetings, at most events, any SLDM that I run, right? Anything that the DVM is doing, certainly they're probably giving some type of levels that people need to hit. I'm not saying this is right. I'm just saying this is what we do. Okay. So again, just like everybody probably comes on here and says, consult with your DVM. Like, what's the process for you in your division, David? I don't really think it matters too much, but I like getting people in the fold a little bit earlier, because the way I perceive it is that if I can get Bianca at 6K, 8K to my behind the scenes, which is like my staff meeting, then my exposure with her is, the volume on that is turned up dramatically. And I'm automatically paying attention to her in a different way because she's showing up at my leadership meeting, my pilot staffer. So that helps me to make sure I know who to target and who to focus on. And it's also something that people can earn a spot to get a chance to be on the fly on the wall, to see what it's like to run things behind, the sales part of the organization. So I'll show that one more time. And just to clarify what our standards are, is at $1,000, they start networking with me. And so we utilize, I actually love this concept from Jeff Gamboa, taught me this years and years ago, that as soon as somebody hits their first promotion in my division, my managers will create a networking message with me on WhatsApp. And so it's great because I get a chance to see who's on the radar. And so I'm not so sure that this, if you're a district manager, I'm not so sure how this comes into play for you. But Katerina, if you had a sales manager that's doing coaching, you could teach him or her like creating interest to get to you. And so having a little bit of separation, I think, can be helpful. In all reality, there's probably some DMs on this call, though, that you're doing the heavy lifting with coaching and PDI with your reps. So it's not really about networking with you, but you're getting them exposure to the DVM. So again, I'm not inviting you to create 3 ways at 1K for your division manager, like consult with them, might be 3K, might be 6K. I used to do 6K, but I just found that we weren't having people, I wanted to catch people earlier on in the process and help them along. At $3,000, we ran a local TLA every other week. So they got an invite to that, invite to our key staff, which we do bi-weekly as well. And then at 6K, we start talking about the AM opportunity, an opportunity to come, Rob, behind the scenes, get invited to a staff meeting. And then typically when they're at $10,000, interview for TLA or someone that's getting, actually, I'll mark this, someone that's getting and earning their assistant manager promotion. Okay, so that's the general formula over and over. And we also say things like, David, I'm not, the CPO helps, but we're more impressed with who you are. So, you could sell $30,000, Bianca, in your fast start, but that doesn't mean you're going to be on staff, right? You can sell, it could also, Rob, it could take you 10 months to get to 10K. And Lord, I hope that doesn't happen for you. But if it does, you can still earn a spot on the staff, right? So we talk about promoting people based on the quality of who they are versus like their tenure in the organization, right? Being here for a long time doesn't necessarily equate to a leadership position. Being a leader equates to a leadership position. So hopefully that's at least a good helpful start for you. And so making sure that you have a walk down and people are just clear about that, because then it starts conversation. So I can say, Bianca, hey, I noticed that you're at 5,000. At 6,000, you can put in your application to become an AMI, which we call an assistant manager intern. You might call it AMIT or manager in training, something like that. The concepts are basically the same. And so we then have that person get a chance to apply and we have a interview with them. So I'll talk about that as well. So I was alluding to this earlier, but I'm looking for ways to create these conversations always. And this is really where I would suggest doing this. So one-on-ones in PC, sometimes it's done through a message, right? If you got a lot of people and you want to get the message out, but I think it's better done either on the phone live, on a live Zoom call with them one-on-one, or if you're meeting people in person, like that napkin talk that we have. I also know that I'll be doing group events this summer. Okay, so I will be having AM opportunity calls very likely once a month throughout my division. And I would encourage you as a district manager, for those of you that are like Lexi, you might want to have an AM opportunity call where every single person in the organization, like the event is promoted. Okay, so we start summer April 27th. Maybe your first AM opportunity call, Katarina, is, I don't know, May 24th, something like that in the schedule. So you start promoting that and you start getting people to that event where you talk about what it means to be on Miss Martin's staff. Here's the expectations. Here's the standards. I think it's great right now to do it all one-on-one. I'm just forecasting that we're going to recruit so big this summer that we're going to have to do some group calls. And of course, I'm doing it for my division as well. All right. But don't be afraid of doing the group thing. Trent, I don't know if you're saying
Yeah, a couple quick questions here just to follow up here if we could. Rob Chung asking, when in training do you mention the AM opportunity? I imagine it's more than just one spot, but is there a place for the stump speech?
Yeah, so opening comments is where that happens. Because in the opening comments, when I'm running training, I'm talking about the rep experience, but I do a big promotion for Best Version of You. I do a big promotion for our Leadership Academy. That is the coveted flagship program everybody wants to get into. We talk a lot of my stuff, frankly, is from Mr. Gamboa, right? So he's been a big mentor for me coming up in the business, and so a lot of 5-star promotion. And so any of you that are interested in, upgrading your experience, we're looking to fill 5, 10. We're looking for X amount of people to achieve our TLA. So we're looking for new assistant managers. We're looking for new branch managers in the following year. Now that might seem like a big stretch, Bianca, because we're 40 minutes and day one of training. But I want to let y'all know the job is more than just doing demos and making part-time money. There's nothing wrong with that if you want to be here for that reason as well. But I gotta imagine there's at least 10 or 20% of this great group that we have, that's already looking for, how do I get more out of this job? You want your resume to pop. You want it to look different than your peers. And then I go off on some of you are in med school, you're going to law school, you want to do this. And I talk about all the jobs that like shouldn't continue being here. We all hear those excuses for why people shouldn't be a part of it. And I build value in the quality of their resume compared to their peers and setting them up. So AM's a great step. And then I always invite everybody to do this. I say a lot that the secret to getting promoted wherever you are, just teach this at all the time, is just talking about, you need to ask for it. Like if you want to get paid more, asking for a raise. Like a big reason why people don't get raises because they don't ask for it, because it's a scary thing. Katerina, if you want to get promoted quickly, guess what I'm going to tell you to do? Ask. Hey, training class, why do you think I want you to ask? Go ahead and join me in the chat. Yeah, exactly, Madeline. So I know you're interested, right? I definitely don't want somebody to be in the role where I'm twisting their arm. I don't want to build with that person, right? I want someone who's interested. They want to learn. They want to grow. So that's who we're trying to build on our staff. So anyway, Rob, I hope that answered your question, but it's definitely more heavy in the opening comments. And to be frank, there's probably not a lot that is sprinkled throughout the rest of training, because it's just, there's so much other content to cover. But we certainly say, having a great weekend gets you an opportunity to get like networking on the radar, gets you a chance to get promoted quickly. And then we'll have little things like that at advanced training. Then most of those conversations are done one-on-one to get people in the mix, to get interested in those. And of course, every team meeting, we're promoting what our availability is, what our mission is, what we're building, and how many people we have on staff, what we're looking to add to staff, those types of things. Just as a note that just came up, a nugget that I've always learned is like how you talk about your staff, like their gold, I think also creates desire for people wanting to be a part of that. So if you haven't at your last team meeting, like put a slideshow up of your staff, like get great pictures from them off their Instagram, or like highlight each person and just talk about how amazing they are. Not only are they going to be on cloud 9, but Hans, your people probably be like, well, I want Hans to talk about me like that someday, or like, look at the experience that those people are getting. Should I keep going, or should we have more questions about this part?
We're pausing, so if you have a question, feel free to just wave and we'll unmute you, or you can unmute yourself. Actually, at this point, we're small enough, or drop it in the chat. We'll catch it later.
Okay. All right, cool. I'll keep rolling. Great. So I was just going to share this slide with everybody, that just to capture it for the recording, and something that you can promote for yourself, Lexi, when you're going to have your AM opportunity meeting, what people are going to get. Maybe your DVM, this might look like your SLDM, David, that your DVM runs. Like that's another version of that as well. But just to be clear, when people get to the AM opportunity meeting, this is where I'm literally going over the role, the schedule, what to expect, what the standards are. And I even go into pay, about how we pay our assistant managers. And if I can accomplish that with a group of people, then it can create follow-up conversations from those people as well. Okay, so when I have our AM conversations, one of the things that I think has been valuable for us to do has been really leaning into the Cutco through college. So everybody is well familiar with that at this point. And I just wanted to take that and run. I stole this idea from Mike Abramowitz and his idea of making sure that we do Cutco through college PCs with people more quickly. And if I am going to be doing a one-on-one meeting with an assistant manager, like candidate and AMI, there's essentially 4 things that I'm going to be accomplishing. So if I sat down with you, Madeline, hey, you got interest in being an AMI, great, let's get some time. Wherever you're getting the time and how you're getting it, I just recommend, it shouldn't be a phone call, right? So it's a Zoom or you meet with them in person. I will cover the roles of the AM, okay? And those roles boil down to 3 things for me: sell, team build, and how you act, period, the end, right? I'm not talking about anything else, because they can stretch into those other jobs later, but I really want them to just go, hey, your job is to sell, team build, and how you act, like the role model status that you are. I even say, hey, Hans, your first job as an AM is to sell a lot of Cutco, right? Your second job as an AM is to sell a lot of Cutco. And your third job, Hans, as an AM, guess what that is? And sometimes they get it wrong. It's unbelievable, right? But like the third one, Chris, is to sell a lot of Cutco. So it's so important, Lexi, that when you get promoted, in order for you to stay in that role, that you're selling, okay? Now, that doesn't just having that little conversation certainly doesn't fix everything. Like that, you still need to be driving them to make those sales, but I think that's helpful. And then of course, there's an expectation of team building and then the role model. So I'll show you a slide for that momentarily. So the first one is the role. The second one is how they, the impact they're going to have. So Lexi, I'll promote to you your impact, your influence that you're going to have on the team, the difference that you're going to make. And then you can ask some open-ended questions like, well, why are you interested in this role? Like, what's calling you to leadership? Hey, Lexi, if you had this type of impact this summer, how would that make you feel? How do you think your experience would be? Right. So kind of making sure they tie in like what's in it for them. Okay. The third is I do cover pay at this time. So I'm real clear for them about pay. And without going, I guess, too in depth into that right now, I do cover that in one of the YouTube recordings that y'all can watch. But I basically, the program in my office is they will be an AMI anywhere from like 2 to 4 weeks. I'm not really a big fan of having somebody, doing things in my organization and not being comped for it for a long time. I'm great with like an internship, apprenticeship, and I actually promote it that way. Hey, Trent, if you're on here, it's like an apprenticeship. Like you're learning, you're getting a master class from me and the rest of the staff, and you got to earn your spot to become an assistant manager. But you'll pretty much be in the role of an AMI for 2 to 4 weeks. Eventually, we want to drop the I, Trent, and we're gonna put you on office pay. Now, here's how office pay works, right? And I cover all the details, right? Like you're gonna be a blank percentage when you're brand new, more than likely. In my division, everything gets withheld. When you're on there, you can't qualify for base pay anymore. And the main thing is that I talk about how AM pay is not great pay. Like Katerina, if you want to be an AM to get paid more from that, like that's not the right reason you should get into the leadership role. In fact, what you learn as an AM is a good reason that'll help you get paid 10x when you get out into the real world, whatever your job is going to be, right? So you're learning these skills now. The pay is nice. It helps you go in there. But I really want to set the frame, David, that like, if you have someone at 0.5% and your office isn't doing a ton of business, they should be expecting that like that's not going to necessarily put food on their table, so to speak, And so I want to make sure I'm setting that tone for, hey, how you get paid as an AM, Hans, is you need to sell. That's why you're at 25, 30%, some 35, 40%, et cetera. So I think that's helpful for me on like the back end conversations. And I also address about how to get that money out of their account. A la J Brad, basically like it doesn't come out, right? The reason why you pull it out, Bianca, is you've left our business. Okay. And then I would encourage you to you got a nice chunk, invest that for the long term, right? Of course, it's your money, but also it's to set you up for running a future branch because you need capital to start that. Now, Bianca, you may or may not run a branch because it's March right now and you don't have an opportunity to get our TLA and all that stuff till September. You got to go through a process. But if you're an AM on my staff, I'd want you to be thinking that way about how could I run my own branch team? Because that's what we're going to train you on how to do. Whether you do that or not, Dan, obviously you got a lot to earn between now and then, but I want to set that tone. So that helps me on the back end with other conversations. So being real forthright with people is always a good principle. So we cover 4 concepts, right? Roles, impact, pay, and then I do their CTC plan. So that will look like this, like I've shown you. So just to capture a few, this actually, there's no name on this one that I can see. This is for David Roberts. He's one of my staffers right now. I'll be a lead AM in the pilot this summer. This is Donovan Triolo, who was a 16K fast starter. He goes to San Diego State. Dream job is to be an entrepreneur. So he's like built to be a branch manager. Branch summer round 2. His job this summer as an AM, sell 30, 40, 50, 60K. Then he's going to be in the TLA and then continue through that process. So I set him up for this. This is Niala, who graduated from UCLA and is trying to get into law school. They're 25 years old. You can see what it is. And so Niala is a part of the staff right now as well. And then you can see Emily Jaboro. So I can capture this for the recording. She is a newest like AMI on the team and at 13 or 14 grand now at this point. And you can see her major is kinesiology. And so we just talk about her running her own clinics and she wants to be in charge someday. And so we talk about the skills that she's going to learn here. Once that gets done, I screenshot. And then if you were on my team, Stu, I would put it in WhatsApp. Okay. And if you're already like networking with your DVM, let's say that you had that, then I would put that in like in the 3-way so DVM can see. That's great. They probably can comment it or whatever, but I won't, they do their process. But for my guys and girls, they'll actually put that in like a networking chat. So I can see the cut go through college for that person. I know that the PC happened, and then I'll just label it in WhatsApp so I can refer back to it later. One of the things that I do think is important, if you are going to go through this, cut go through college, and I don't know how I can share these slides Trent, I can get, it's just so you guys don't have to make new templates if you don't want to, and you want to use mine, you just got to change a couple things around, I suppose. But lost my train of thought. Okay. Oh yeah. When you're doing the Cutco through college process, I'll say, hey, Dan, I'm going to go through Cutco through college. You're 18. This is like a 4-year plan. So like, don't get overwhelmed by this. This is not set in stone. This isn't cemented or concretized at any level. Like I love to give people a roadmap. Chris, you cool with that? So in an ideal world, here's what it could look like. All right. Katerine, you've been here for 3 weeks. You don't even know if you want to be here for the next 3 months, but you're having fun. It's a good thing. So I'm just going to give this to you. So I'm doing a lot of that kind of stuff. So that way you don't have, I've had this conversation with people and then afterwards they quit. They're like, trying to lock me in for 4 years. Like what's going on? Like it's you guys know the drill, right? So I think it's really good that you frame it in there correctly. Like Bianca, I just want you to have this roadmap later. We can always change it. You don't have to do this one, but I've noticed for all of our leadership candidates, it's really nice to help them develop clarity so they're able to be better decision makers along that way. Cool. So I'm going to pause right there. This has been our process. I will talk a little bit about managing agreements, but I guess maybe it'd be good if anybody has any questions about just onboarding AMs and getting people in the pipeline or anything that you'd like me to clarify on that. And then I was going to share just a couple things on managing agreements with people.
Yeah, Evan, I had a question. Great context so far, just about getting them the pipeline, getting them all the info. I was wondering, on one side are you doing anything for like relationship building? You guys doing any group events, like fun events and stuff like that, or any payouts? Kind of like what are you doing to manage, like make sure the relationships are building, not just with you and the candidates, but also the candidates themselves?
Yeah. Okay. So this is an interesting question because we have our, like on paper, largest, strongest staff, highest average career sales going into this summer we ever have. And I just met one of my guys last week and he's at 30K. Okay. Now I'm not promoting this. I don't think this is a great idea. So David, on a personal level, we've just been a little tighter, and California is weird. Okay. So I'm sure y'all can relate to that. Like it is a strange place. So we've been a little tighter on a lot of things. If I had it, like if you fast forward and we got clear through all this, I would be making sure, like we'll be having our staff meetings in our office, right? Once I get my new, like a new office that we're creating for the summertime, like we'll be having staff meetings there. So that way I can get my exposure with those people. I'm looking for just events to do with my staff, just like getting time with them. So they get enough from the way I feel about it now is we have so much content available for them in staff meetings and a billion Zooms that I get the most value. I think they get the most value when we're just hanging out and there's no, like, shop happens, talk that happens, but I think it's more of the hang time is good to build the relationship. So what I've done with my guys recently is outdoor stuff. We had like a beach hangout. We've had golf or frisbee golf or something like that at a park. Like that's been great for us. We do have a contest that we're running for the month of April that my staff can be a part of, to be a part of a dinner that we're going to have. I'm going to have a Kill the Summer meeting that is going to like kick off for our pilot staff. So we'll be having, I see us having that all in my backyard, kind of spread out a little bit. I think that will be okay. So we're going to look for some opportunities like that. And like I'd say, I'm probably more on the tighter side, mostly because we have an infant. If I was all of you, like depending on where you are and the restrictions and stuff, I'd be with them as much as I possibly could. Everything that I just said to you right now, I would do in person rather than on Zoom. I'm just sharing that you're able to create this staff and these people even through this method, but we want to tack on the human part. So hopefully that helps. We'll probably have some contests this summer for them, and we'll have some beach stuff. We're right by the beach here in San Diego. We'll have those types of things, but we're going to look for areas where we can collaborate, but probably not having a meeting. It'd be more just like come and hang.
Great question, David. Other questions here for Evan before we move forward? I did notice, Evan, that on your slide that you just had up previously, CSP. So it's almost like you're introducing at the very napkin level, napkin talk level, the idea that there's two paths you can go by, but in the long run, there's still time to change the road you're on. Dan Cassett knows where that's from. So you can either go CSP or management. You talk just a bit about that because they must ask what that is.
Yeah. So to be a portion of this that does happen a lot of times before we get to a Cutco through college is they'll go to an SLDM or whatever y'all call it, like some sales leadership development meeting that your DVM will run. Well, they'll learn about the vector opportunity, increase their sales skills in some regard. I would imagine you got something like that. So a lot of times, Trent, that's already framed in like what the CSP opportunity is. However, there are plenty of times where this woman, Emily, she doesn't know that. She hasn't been to an SLDM yet. So for her, it was just a little bit more explanation and really letting them know that like the path can bisect and there's two paths that people go. Well, really there's three. So Katerina, if you're working with me and you're going through our leadership academy, which is the whole purpose of being here, like I really am promoting that a lot. So that way you either are going to go, I'm going to be a manager, right? I'm a CSP, right? Or we promote CGC or something like that, full-time sales rep. Or you become a 5-star recruit, most badass individual, and you go get whatever job you want to. So I think a lot of us know that there's three things that, because a lot of them are going to leave the business, obviously. But I want to plant that seed for them early on that one, in order to become a CSP, the expectation certainly is to run a branch. So, Bianca, you want to be a CSP? Like that's your path? Perfect. Well, first step is you got to get in TLA because 0 doors really open up without TLA. And then being a CSP in a lot of ways now is running a business too, right? They're hiring on, they're bringing on people, they're managing people, right? They have to manage their business and their clientele. So you want to learn that. And so a branch manager is going to give you some great foundational things for that. And I really promote the idea that, Chris, when you run a branch, after that, you're pretty much going to know, like, do I want to do this again? Like, or do I want to do this manager thing? And then, or do I want to be more on the sales rep thing? And it's not perfect for everybody. We have a candidate that's going to skip out on branch and he's like all like CGC, CSP, but he's 19, 20 in college. And I'm glad that he's turned on about that opportunity. Cause frankly, I'll take him either way. Right, Stu? Like, I don't care. I'll take a DM. I'll take a CSP. I just want people to stick and develop. So I feel like if I can share with them lots of opportunity, they can be somewhat dazzled with that and go, well, maybe it is worth like spending my time here. And it's more of a sales point of like, this is why it's worth your time to do Cutco through college. On another note for that, we do adjust. I don't have that slide available for y'all real quick, but we do have a fast track slide that we promote as well. So I have I guess I have 3 people on my staff right now that are, 25, 33, and 44. So with them, I'm not talking about a 4-year period. I'm talking about, hey, this summer is about creating what you want to do next summer. And so here's the process that could happen along the way. And for some of them, it's their AMs this summer. So I'm like, at the end of this summer, you might know, like, do I want to be running a sales team or do I want to just be the salesperson and working on the sales team at a high level?
Evan, another question here from Mr. Chung. Do AMIs start on any type of pay or is it after their 2 to 4 weeks?
Yeah. So for my pilot, no, they start on pay after their 2 to 4 week period. But what I would do, like Rob, if you didn't have anybody on staff, you had 3 people on staff, and the way the company gives that extra help for you to do that, it's just different for me in the pilot. And I already have, I think, 7 people on staff. So a lot of stuff's getting spread out. So I want them to earn the spot. I also use it to create leverage against the people that are on pay. Like I don't want it to be cutthroat, but like Katerina, you need to be doing the right things. Like, cause people are coming up, they're going to want your spot, and I need you to set the standard for what that is for them.
There was a deeper dive, by the way, on that from Mike Abramowitz. So if you're looking to go a little deeper on that topic, his is available as well.
Yeah. So anyway, that's it. In addition to this, I would make a point for all of you is that I didn't mention this earlier, is if I had a conversation with Dan and he's getting promoted, right? So there, hey, Dan, you're now an assistant manager intern. Okay. So I have that conversation recorded. At that point, we then make their schedule. Okay. So the way that I do that is I will literally screen share with them. I create Google Cal. I invite them to it. I make sure that they're on a recurring, I show them where the schedule is. They get the pilot schedule and the pilot like interview schedule and training schedule. So they have access to all of that to be able to see it. And so I actually give them their shifts when they're in. I'll typically give an AMI 1 or 2 shifts. And they're usually very short, like 2 hours or something like that. Because for me, I just don't, I don't need them to be in 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. because I want them to be around, right? I don't want them to quit. So I want to kind of ease them into it, but I do set the tone and standard that, hey, that's going to increase, you know, once we drop the I. And then after that, Hans, I will actually I'll set a time in the calendar with them when we're going to have a follow-up about dropping the I. So I think that's really important because if you drop the ball on that, Bianca, they'll be like, well, shoot, I've been on like AMI now for like the whole summer. This sucks. You know, like I haven't been on like when, and they might be too nervous to go, hey, Lexi, when do I get paid? You guys, can you like, sometimes we forget that, like, it's a scary thing to like come to the man and be like, hey, I'm not getting credit for what I'm doing. So I'll say, Dan, right now it is March 30th. Let's set a date for 2 weeks from now for a quick PC about how you're progressing as an AMI. And then we'll talk about what you need to either drop the I or if you're good at that point. And then you also can give them some objective targets to hit. So Katerina, I want to see on the newsletter. Miss Madeline, I want to see you make sure that you're scheduling at least whatever it is, 5 PRs, 10 PRs, 20 PRs, whatever you have for people. So that way they know what to do. And then once they get done with that meeting with me, when they're officially on there, we then send them a YouTube playlist, which I could also get for you all as well. I'm not really sure what the best way to get that. Maybe Trent, I can just send you an email and that can get pressed out. I don't know what's best for that, but they get an email from my Dom actually that made a playlist of welcome to staff. And then it's a setting PRs and then it's how to do social media, like the first things that they're going to do. So that's all done in that PC and then that follow-up. And then they have to like post to me, Madeline, like, did you watch the videos? Right. I want to make sure that they're up to date on that. Whereas in office, I'd be able to like watch them and be there with them. Right. But it's a little different now. So we found that helpful for like creating systems to onboard these people.
I have a question, actually kind of two. So, what do you, or slash like, when do you kind of revisit the Cutco through college plan that you like showed them the first time? Like, when do you kind of show it to them again when they're like on track to hitting their first thing, or if they're falling a little behind from their goals? Kind of when do you kind of bring it up, like, this is what you're excited to do, you're kind of falling a little behind, like this is what you like, kind of, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So for me, that's an interesting conversation. That's an interesting question because that makes me think that we should have something more systemized for when we're going to follow up with people for that. We don't have that currently. So what feels good to me would be maybe a monthly check-in on that, because, you know, asking somebody to make a lot of progress on a 4-year plan within 1 week, that feels too rapid for me. I also like the idea of maybe every campaign, because like for your people that are significant, you're like doing that campaign planning with them. And so that probably feels good to kind of let them know, like you update that. Hey, let's update what's going on with you. But I feel like a lot of times when they get into the TLA program at the end, then they start to like, that starts to become solidified on what they want. So, hey, let's revisit that. So you bring up a really good point. My gut right now tells me like once a campaign and more if that person needs it, because you're already doing PDI and you're kind of helping them along and making progress towards that. I just probably don't want to say, hey, Madeline, you're kind of off track on your branch because you had a no sale last year, like you had a goose egg last week. So let's pick that sugar up, you know, like I probably want to adjust that a little bit. That both questions or just first one?
No, that was just the first one. And for the second one, it was about like with AMIs. I know this differs office to office, but is there like kind of a thing that you always have them do on their first shifts, or does it kind of depend on who the person is, what you need help on, or is it just like, okay, first AMI shift, you always do this?
Yep. Yeah. So, okay. First shift is usually this. It's just observing. Okay. And so we're doing like a group Zoom kickoff, let's say, for doing social media and PRs on a Sunday. So they might be watching. They're also shadowing somebody. And then when the reason why I like this is because as we've put more people in and my staff has a schedule, like I have David Roberts has got a schedule 4 to 7 on a Monday night. He's got tasks that he needs to accomplish. The AMIs that I then promote, I link them onto David's shift. So that way they're like working with somebody. So I would try to do that as much as you possibly can. If it's your first AMI, Madeline, then you're just, okay, when am I setting PRs? And then they're doing that shift with you at the time. So just make sure they don't feel like they're left on a limb and not able to get help, but for their first shift, a lot of times they might be observing if they feel really confident they're setting PRs, or they're sending social media messages because anybody can copy and paste. And so we have a big spreadsheet of like all the handles, what to copy and paste so they can get them out, like get blocked during that time. And then they can move on to the next task.
Thanks.
Yeah. I'll also share this with you all as well, that I think this ties into your question, Katerina, as far as like campaign planning goes. But we just finalized this doc. Can you see this? So yeah, okay. So Hans, I'll share this with everybody in the Western region, at least. I guess I can share with everybody, it's fine. This part here, okay, Madeline, what do you want to sell for the summer campaign, Madeline? You can actually unmute here. I don't know if you can.
Oh, you want me to mute?
Yeah, go ahead. What do you want to sell for the campaign?
50K.
Okay, I like that, right? So I can go through this process and you can have your rep and you plug everything in. I'm out of town this week, right? And you can do everything. And then over here, you just have the reps fill out their stats, right? So I have it for the summer campaign, all the breakdown dates, we'll have SC1, everything in there. And then this to you, Katerina, like if I'm meeting with Madeline, this feels like a good time if I'm doing campaign planning for somebody to also revisit their cut through college. Like Madeline, when you sell your 50K, let's talk about income. Let's talk about savings. Let's talk about your future opportunity. Let's talk about the spot. You're not only going to be in the TLA, you're going to be in the top tier, right? How would that feel to be uncommon amongst the uncommon people? Like that's where we want to get you. So then I start having that conversation with them. But I'll share this with everybody. Actually, maybe I can just put a link in here in the box. I think that will work. And then you guys can just don't edit this. Okay. I'll give you you can make a copy of it, but the reps can put in here, Bianca, how many calls does it take you per demo? My average order size, 350. My closing percentage is 80. 15% of my demos cancel and I get 7 recs on average. It'll just plug in everything that they need for the week all the way through. Okay. You're going to take this week off. Okay. That's great. You're out of town with your family. Well, we're going to come down here. Well, here's SC2. So we want to make sure that you're doing 10 grand for, based upon what you all need. So before I end, I'll throw that in there so you all can grab it and then just make a copy if you find that valuable. But we do that. I would do that with campaign planning and Cutco through college revisit of that conversation. Okay, so if you all can see from the chat, my fantastic region manager is on Dan Casetta. So he said that I'm not allowed to share. So no, I'm not sharing it with you. Build your own damn spreadsheet. Okay. So I'm going to just share a couple things on managing agreements that I had prepared for today. And then I guess we can go any direction we want to here. So one of the things that I've been focused on as a DVM and frankly have struggled with is managing agreements properly with people and holding people accountable. One of the things that I find tremendously one of the things I can find tremendously challenging for me is having so many people to hold accountable, how the frequency of that accountability, okay, and then deciding who do I need to actually hold accountable and when, right? So there's a lot of moving parts for that. So I just want to share a few things that have come up. And since we're talking about AM onboarding and bringing people onto staff, I think it's really important that all of you still make sure that you create agreements with your staff. You make sure that those are the people, David, you're spending the most time with to drive their sales. every single manager that I have experienced at some point in their career has fallen into the trap that Stu promotes somebody and then goes, they're good, right? They're promoted. They have a title. Everybody's heard this before. They're not good till they're at 50K, and then they still need some more, So it's a good reminder for all of us. And so I'm going to challenge all of you on how are you going to develop your system for keeping people accountable. All right. So what I use for me is nothing necessarily this great formula or beautiful spreadsheet. I'm just finding things and reminders for me to hold people accountable into my schedule. I'm gonna share a few things that I do there, but it's good that you have a system. Okay. So when I talk about making agreements with these individuals and managing agreements, there's a simple concept called the Hawthorne effect. And the idea is that individuals modify their behavior when they're observed. It's very simple, very basic. Okay. I think it was from the 1950s from a place in Chicago where they did this research. And essentially, if Trent knows that I'm watching him, he's going to perform different, right? Just like when my dad showed up to my wrestling match, I was making more of an effort to pin the dude. Okay. So whatever it is, we're going to operate differently when we're being observed. And so this can be a very positive thing. So if you make people aware, Rob, that they're being observed and that you're going to check in with them, you're going to make some movement on this. The tough part for us as a manager is actually the follow-up and the follow through. So for an assistant manager on the team, they need to know that results measured are going to be results gained. So Madeline, this is the name of the game. I like you a lot. You got great leadership skills and you're a great person, but we want to make sure we help you move forward. So if we're able to measure your results, we're going to help you get better at this position. So when I make an agreement with somebody, these are some easy concepts. Is I want to make sure it's clear. I want to make sure the objectives are listed out. There needs to be some kind of deadline and follow-up. So that would just be a simple 4-point thing for you, Stu. So if you're one of my AMs, okay, and you're trying to accomplish XYZ goal for the week, I want to make sure we're crystal clear on that. Okay, so Stu, just so I'm clear, you want to make sure something simple, like you want to submit your schedule to me every single week on a Sunday after you do your power hour. Does that sound good? Okay, so this is pretty easy. One objective we're going to do on Sunday. Stu, what time are we doing that on Sunday? What time works for you that you know that you can get it submitted with your power hour?
8 p.m.
8 p.m. Okay, cool. And then I say things like, I'm writing that down, whatever the case is. I'll put a reminder in my phone, right? So they already know that something's going to be there. Stu, why don't you put a reminder in there too, just so you got it, right? Now, remember, Stu, this is more for you than it is for me. I already made my schedule, right? So I want to get you in this habit so that way you use this for the long term. This is part of becoming a 5-star individual, is making sure you get good at managing your time. So we'll follow up on Sunday. Hey, Stu, how many weeks do we need to do this? I see you just walked away, no pressure at all. Okay, let's do this. We just want to build a habit. And I know that I don't want to follow up on a schedule for the whole summer because it's likely, Bianca, I'm going to drop the ball on that. The next 2 or 3 weeks. How's that sound? Stu says 3 weeks. Okay, really good. Let's follow up on that process. You can do this with calls. You can do this with demos. You can do this with PRs, whatever it is. Just make sure you're clear. There's a deadline and then a process for following up. My strategy for this also, if Madeline is my AM and I'm having a conversation with her, I actually have a document up for every person in my organization of just running notes. And so I'll actually put everything in there and then I'll take a screenshot or copy and paste. And David, I drop it into your WhatsApp or GroupMe, whatever you use, text message, doesn't matter. So I actually put it there and it helps me just remember because I can revisit that conversation for what I need to do. When I end that conversation, Rob, I set a reminder on my phone. Something simple. Hey, check in at 7:00 on Sunday night to make sure that Dan submitted his schedule to me. So it's really simple for me to send that message. Hey, David, it's 7:01. I didn't see it. I know you're probably just running behind. Let's get that thing posted. Now, again, Madeline, you got to be mindful of like how often you're going to do this, with who, the frequency, because you try to do this with every single person, you're going to fail. I shouldn't say that. You might succeed. I have failed at this majority of the time. So my process for doing this is I go, hey, Brad's a guy I care about and I want to develop. So he's worth holding accountable. Katerina, you may even want to make a spreadsheet. Like, who are the people I need to hold accountable this week? And by what date and time? It's really easy to just get those down that you can refer to that over and over and over again, right? Lexi, you might be more diligent. You get a Google form, right? Post everything in there, when to follow all that stuff. So then it creates it for you, right? You might want to have that system, but really framing it for people that this is in your best interest. and accountability is a really positive thing. Okay. Holding an agreement is a really positive thing. And then I'll always repeat back. Okay. So Bianca, I just before we end today, I just want to make sure. So we're agreeing that you want to do blank, blank, blank by this date. Does that sound right to you? Okay, cool. Right. I'll get that down. I'll send you the notes. And then I'm going to make sure that I track the agreement. So my question for all of you is, how are you going to track them? How are you going to track them with your people? I also will just share with all of you that I do some group accountability without pointedly calling anybody out. So if this was my staff meeting, I wouldn't go, hey, if y'all notice from the sales report, David sold 0 last week. And then here's the PR report. David, I don't know if you see, you're actually at the bottom of the PR report. If you look at the show percentage to interview, David, you're also at the bottom of that report too. So you probably should get your stuff together. Like I found that like group embarrassment has not served me well. Oh, by the way, I have done that before and been a total you-know-what at a staff meeting. And they're like, well, wow, this is terrible. Like imagine people showing up for that meeting. Now you might have a different strategy than me. That just works for me. And so that makes me feel good about how I'm coaching my people. If I can adjust my approach and I can just recognize the good. Hey, if you notice that Chris, Brad, John Kane, our #1 PR setter, nice, he's on there too. Let me remind everybody, Lexi, what our standards are. Ron, let me remind everybody. I'm not necessarily calling a person out, but that's what I'll do group wise. And then I can have that conversation with somebody individually. Again, that works for me. You might be able to pull it off to somebody differently than that, but I just wanted to share that. Trent, I have 1 more or 2 more slides to share, and then I'm done with my like anything prepared stuff, and anybody can ask literally whatever they want, I guess.
Just so it hits the recording here, I dropped it in the comments section there. Accountability should feel like you're supporting them, folks. This is a masterclass in accountability for them, not a club to beat them with, right? So when you earn trust, when they do miss and you hold them accountable to support them, that feels wildly different than what'd you do, why, nice B, what happened to the A. Very different type of feel here that Evan's bringing. It's just a nuance, folks, that if you're really all about supporting people, will feel very different to your group. So definitely did want to make sure that was lost here, Evan. This is great content. Thanks, brother.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. That to piggyback on that, I believe we should all be asking permission. Not from a place of weakness, right? Not from a place of, am I allowed to hold you accountable? It's like, Ron, you're the damn coach, man. Like, of course, right? But I think it's important to understand people are in different places. So, hey, John, with your permission, right? Hey, would that be okay if I held you accountable to a different level? Would that be okay if I help you hit your goals? Yeah, that's okay. Well, hold on a second, John. Before you say yes, let me tell you what that looks like. I'm going to hold you accountable. Like I'm going to follow up on you. Right. And you might resent that from time to time, but that's me being a good coach. It's tough love. It's me, I think it's good to have those combos with people. Is that okay for me to do that with you? Sometimes you guys might have to have a reset with one of your assistant managers as well. Hey, Katarina, can we start over? Seems like we've gone off the rails. With your permission, like let's start over. Okay. Let's make some new agreements. Is that okay if I hold you accountable to those? Right. Another great question to ask is, hey, Brad, if you don't achieve this, how do you want that accountability to look? Right. So it's good to know that for people, because sometimes just sending them a message that works. For Brad, who just went like this, he gets the backside of the ruler, like nun style. Okay. And gives them that.
They are way more savage to themselves than we would be. Like
yeah. I mean, they know, right?
Yeah.
Like I followed with one of my AMs last night. He didn't submit his schedule to me. Right. And all I said was, hey, I'm missing it. Right. And that's it. He just, I'll get it. Okay. Hey, it was your thing you wanted to do. Right. So you said it was important. So I just want to make sure I'm helping you move forward, bud. All right, let's keep going. Right. And then give them some forgiveness. Hey, David, let's start over this week, man. Forget about last week. Let's rock this week. So just that kind of thing is probably leadership they're not used to. Just to capture for the recording, staff expectations, Chris, that they see if they're coming to my a meeting with me. Stu, hey, if you're on staff, I expect you to be selling consistently. You know, you're gonna be helping with PRs and team building. You need to be a great role model, high communication. I got a lot of this great stuff from learning from Micah Bromwitz. The slides, the expectations, real clear here, you know. And for our summertime, to be frank for everybody, this is upping, right? So selling $1,000 a week, they're going to be sending more messages, setting more PRs. But this one, high communication and being a positive role model, like those are always the same, right? Because there's no adjustment there. So I wanted to put that up and capture it for the recording, and I show that at pretty much every staff meeting for the most part. Great. I'm also
if I could clarify as well,
Sure.
Evan, you mentioned earlier that all the AM pay is withheld. So if they need to live, they need to make money, they need to sell. Is there a conversation that you have to have with your people occasionally when they're like, hey, money's kind of tight, I haven't been selling, I've been setting appointments, so I'm not disqualified, but I need cash. Is that usually where you're directing them, is hey, get out there and sell, or how's that go down usually?
Yeah. So about I'm sorry, I was posting something in the chat there. I shouldn't have been.
No, it's
you
all
were
right.
saying
Listen, you followed through on a promise there. Thank you for doing that.
You were talking about like just so I know, it was about releasing withholding.
No, well, that's where they sometimes will go to. They might say, hey, money's kind of tight. In other words, because you've been withholding all the AM pay, it's
yeah.
kind of implied they got to sell. If you need money, you need to sell. In other words, I see there it's like sell 500 or set 5 appointments. I might have been the type of AM when I was new that was excited to set the 5 appointments and help the team, but I didn't schedule demos this week. So I didn't sell the 500. I'm still good technically, but now I'm feeling the pinch.
Yeah.
So could you maybe even role play, hey, money's kind of tight, and maybe even you ask that question, hey, how you doing financially? How you doing with cash?
Okay, so
I've been setting appointments, Evan, but I've not really been great about selling. It's been about a month here since I've really had a significant sale.
A few things about this. I make it every Thursday. I look at all my people's paychecks. I don't know who taught me that years ago, but I look at that. I look at all my district's paychecks, my branch's paychecks, and I look at my AM and the pilot staff's paychecks. So that way I know.
So
I've been surprised.
$32.
Yeah. Or how about
Or-
negative
yeah.
350?
Oh, wow.
Because they had a signature set get returned 2 weeks ago, and now like they're really negative, but you're not paying attention to that because you're not queued in. So that's a simple alert, Chris, that goes in your phone on Thursdays, and you just take a peek, right? So just to know where they're at. So let's say Katarina was, 0 for 5. That first conversation is, hey, one of the things is I'm glad that you hit the standard last week. Like, how are you feeling about your results? Like, where are you at? Right. Then they don't assume that they're in a bad spot. They might be okay.
Sure.
So she says, I'm great, Evan. I just need to pick my sales up. I say, okay, great. I want you to do it too. Let's make sure that we need to get you moving in the sales direction this week. Don't have a ton of pressure on yourself, but like, what do you need to make sure that we get your sales there? Field training. Do we need coaching? What do you need help with closing? Is it a video? Is it a link? Like, what do you need right now? Evan, I just need to do 5 more demos. I'll be good. Katarina does 0 for 5 again the next week. Now that conversation is going, all right, hey, we want to make sure we turn this boat around, right? How are you feeling now? Right. You're 0 for 10, or you sold $200 over the last 2 weeks. How are you feeling on money right now? Hey, Stu, how are you feeling about being an AM right now on staff? Usually it's like dirt, right? Oh, I'm not leading. I'm not doing anything. Well, let's make a concentrated effort this week, you and I, higher accountability to get you moving forward, because I want you to be here, right? I want you to be on staff. And you know what, Stu, if you continue along this route, I'm going to remove the burden of staff from you to give and free up more time for you to create the income that you need. And then Bianca, because of who you are, I'm going to promote you right back to staff because I want you there. And you frame it in that sense of going, hey, if Brad, you're off staff, not because I fired you. You're off staff because we need to shift your focus for what's best for you, with the anticipation of within 1 or 2 weeks, you're right back there, right? Stu, is it going to be a bruise to your ego? Maybe for a minute, but have you ever been able to bounce back from something like that before? Tell me about it. Well, here's going to be another example of that, right? So let's make a great thing this week, but let's make an agreement that if you continue to go down this route, Hans, like, let's not burden you with lots of stuff for staff things. Let's make sure that you're able to get the sales that you need, because you can want to be on staff all day long, Hans, but you know what? 0.5% ain't going to cut it for you. Even if we do $800,000 in new this summer, it's not going to cut it for you. You need to be earning more and you need to be leading in that way. So I want to make sure we set you up for success.
Hopefully everybody's catching the degree of empathy that is being brought into this conversation. So a lot of us, when we hear accountability, it's a 4-letter word. It sounds bad, right? accountability. Even in Vector, we've seen it. It's just been harsh or painful. What you're seeing here is a ton of empathy. When he sees that paycheck there, he's digging in and getting more information, but there's a ton of empathy and compassion, and I would even say grace and mercy that he's bringing to restore the development candidate. This is just such a great conversation. Evan, I do want to see your other content. Stuart's got a hand raised, and I'm going to give you the floor here, Stuart. Stuart.
Awesome, thank you. I just had a quick question about the level of communication that you have with your staff. Like, how many days a week are you having group meetings with them? How often are you doing PCs with your staff? And are there like certain days that you choose for those?
Yep. So time with me is once every other week, typically. That will be a little less in the upcoming month because of getting everybody open, obviously. But in the summer, when I put my district cap on, like branches are launched, DMs are launched, I think if, they need to go do their thing, then my my level of engagement with them will be increased. So they'll probably meeting with me like once a week. We have a staffer once a week right now, and that will probably remain so. It'll just might be a little lengthier. I might even break that into 2, right? Like having a recruiting topic staff meeting and then like a coaching reps and working with rep staff meeting, just to kind of break up the length of time. My Dom is also meeting with the people on staff very regularly. But if I was you as a DM, like leading my organization, like it's tempting to always get that time for the 10K fast starters, and they need it too, but don't forget about your staff. And I think a great way to do that is just make sure that when we end a meeting, we're already setting up our next one. So you already have something in the books. And then David, you feel kind of bad, right? Like, oh, I'm going to cancel on one of my staffers for this rep on the team that's new. It's like, well, you got to make a choice on who you're going to spend time with. And it certainly serves you much better to like invest in those people. So I think I answered that correctly. They get comms from me like at least every couple of days. Like our chat's pretty live. Like when I'm putting something in the chat, and this summer they'll get communication from me daily in the chat at the start of the day, like objectives, what we're trying to accomplish for the day, goals for the day.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really good information. I like that. And could you talk a little bit about the level of communication that you have? I know for your office you're using WhatsApp. Is there like a pretty high degree of responses and like a ton of messages in there on a daily basis, as far as like your staff WhatsApp chat?
Yeah. So are you talking about my staff group or like something that my staff and I are exchanging?
Like your staff group.
Right now, the chat probably gets hit like 2 or 3 times a day, something like that. Like we're not sharing hot news and stuff like that in there. Oh no, that's not true. It's probably more like 4, 5, 6 times a day because everybody posts after an interview, those types of things. I'm sending reminders in that. People can use it for asking questions that are staff related topics. But all like the hot news flows to our group chat, But in the summer, I would expect it to be a lot more because what we'll have is, we don't have this now, but we will have in the summer because I need to have a pulse on everybody, is like when they finish a shift, an AM shift, there'll be a template for them to post. PR sent, messages sent, stuff like that. So that way, at least it gives me a quick pulse if I'm not with them like physically in the office.
I like it. Thanks, Evan.
Yeah. But do what works for you, man. Like whatever, but here's what's not okay is hiding in my chat. That's not okay. Okay. What's not okay is not responding. So I set that up on the front end about like, I expect your WhatsApp communication to be professional with me. And Lexi, I don't need you to respond within 30 seconds, but like, I think 1 business day is reasonable, 2 at the most, and if it was less than that, like communicate with me. Hey, I'm going out of town, or I'm off WhatsApp. Great. No problem. But I should be in the loop on that. If I'm reaching out to you ever, David, and saying like, are you okay? Like, are you alive? That's a problem. Our communication has broken down, in terms of what I expect from you on the staff. So Stu, set that standard in the beginning for how you want them. I feel like I'm always training people on how to respond, just like I don't respond to people typically after like 7 o'clock, because then I train them that it's okay to message me that late. Or not, let me adjust that. they can message me late. I'm not training them that I'll respond to them that late, right? I say, you can message me at any time, but don't expect a response, based on my schedule that I've communicated to them. So try to say that better.
Great. Thanks, Evan.
Yeah, of course. Did we nail it?
Crushed it. Are you
March-
feeling like you've got more content you want to cover here, or is there just room for questions?
March Madness is popping off, and
Dude,
it's like
you
Masters
guys.
is coming up.
All right, this is your shot here.
Kentucky Derby is coming. I mean, there's a lot of things to be excited about.
I
Summer's
gave Evan
coming up in
I gave
Texas.
Evan an out, by the way. I said, listen, I know you're busy this time of year, man. If you want to roll at the top of the hour, you don't have to go to the half past. He's like, I'm in.
I'm here. I allocated for this time. If we don't have to force questions, but if anybody has something great, if not, I can roll.
It feels good. Thoughts, questions, or points of clarification, and or what stood out for you the most? What you guys know we've been intentionally not doing surveys, right? But to be able to give real lifetime feedback also feels good. So anything that really, if you put a nugget in there, Evan might not have caught that. He was really focused on his message today, not necessarily the chat. So what is resonating for you? I'll pick up what I'm seeing here in the chat, but Rob, you're here, man, and one of our I would say core members. What stuck out for you?
I just posted in the chat, but just some amount of clarity in, like, if I'm sitting there as the person that you're talking to, I get everything you're saying right away, and then the expectations after they've been onboarded, it's good because, and it's a great time because I'm doing my first TLA 2 meeting tonight with all the summer AMs for my entire district. So I'm just like redoing my whole notes while I'm
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it, man.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah, I think that was one of the big takeaways too. It's just the expectation, and you can just tell the level of consistency that Evan has within his organization, where everything is so dialed in. I liked how he was talking about taking notes on the conversations that he's having with his reps and scheduling the follow-up on the standards that he's setting for them, and making sure that there's a clear deadline and an expectation that's set. And I think that goes such a long ways when you're working with your staff. So I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah, cool. And remember, you guys, anything that I shared today in terms of like an expectation or like, that's just what, being in this business for this long, I've realized that there's obviously no one way to do it, right? We could have 50 DVMs talk about AM onboarding, right? And they're all going to do a little different. So I think what we can gather from that is that it doesn't necessarily matter what it is for your standards and expectations. Like, they should be true to you, and then just hold that line for what works for you, and make sure the expectations are reasonable. You're not asking for too much too soon.
One of the questions we'll ask in coaching is, once we have that, what's the thing? Hey, what's your commitment level, Evan, to that thing? Let's say 10 being done deal, 1 being no way it happens. By the time we speak in 2 weeks, what's your commitment level to this being done? And if it's any less than an 8, we'll just get clarity. Sometimes they just need more time. Sometimes that's a little high up there based on other things they have going on, and we need to adjust it or negotiate. But asking on the front end is another way to just see how relevant or real, if you will, this objective is for them, how committed they are on the front end. It gives them a shot. So, again, that's under the accountability umbrella. For me, just a great reminder, Evan, that it was an axiom that we put in the chat there. We're always better when we're watched. I think you call it the Hawthorne principle there, but very much a vector axiom. It's been used so often I don't even know who to attribute it to, but when people see that our manager is watching. So a follow-up question I do have, Evan. So you're taking notes on a one-on-one phone call with Hans. Where do you track that? Is it in a journal? Is it digitally in your contact? Is it do you have a spreadsheet, Google form? Is it vary?
Yeah, so I just have just something simple. I just got a PC folder, one-on-one folder. So I have one for you, Trent. Like when you and I have conversations, I just pulled it up and I got my screen right here and I got my notes right here for Trent. So I can revisit conversation and so that's helpful to do it like that now. If you met with me in my office, Stu, I was taking notes on our combo. And then I always, let's say we had 60-minute meeting, I would end it at 50 minutes. And then that other time was like putting the notes in. So that way I was capturing it, and I just have it all digital. So that way I can actually, pull it up real quick, and wherever I am, I can review the notes. I think that helps me.
So Sunday night, you have to follow up with 8 people on different standards that are different deadlines that are coming up. Like, where do you have your list? So do you have, like, for Sunday night, you have a list of all the things and all the people you need to follow up with, or is it just like it stays in those different PC folders and you
Yeah.
look-
So yeah, it doesn't stay in those PC folders. I'd probably I either have it on a spreadsheet that I'll like toss things on, right? Nothing formal, nothing worth sharing, like just capturing stuff. So that way I know who I needed to hold accountable for the week, or it can just be like a doc, like one doc. Otherwise I have to open up, 8 different documents. So it doesn't work so well. But the thing I do most, Stu, is I just set reminders on my phone. And so those go off, and then and it's like, hey, hey, blank, set me a reminder to follow up with Stu about submitting his schedule at 8:00 on Sunday. And so it's easy for me that way, because I don't have to think about it. And then as soon as I send that message, they're like, oh shoot, Evan's on it, right? Especially if they haven't done it.
Cool. So you use the reminder feature instead of actually putting it on your calendar.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes. I'll also set reminders to remind people that things are coming up. So my staff had an assignment that I gave them on Tuesday at the staff meeting. Boom. You need to watch Kuval Patel's interview. You need to post your light bulbs. And then as soon as the staff meeting ended, I set a reminder on Saturday. I said, hey, just so you guys know, this is due Monday night. Don't forget. Right. And then on Monday, I had another one that I hit my group chat with at like 5 p.m. And I just said, hey, 10 p.m. I know some of you guys already got it to me, but thanks. So it's helpful for those people. This is why you got to be careful about like how many agreements you say yes to holding, so be mindful of that. But I think your staff is worth it.
Folks, coming down to our final minutes here with Evan Keller. Still an opportunity to dive in, still an opportunity to chime in if you have not. Don't have a gift and not give it today. Don't have a light bulb and not share it, if that's you. I know John Kane wants to get in here too, so I'm going to invite him here if everybody's just not. Lexi, you look like you want to say something, but you could pass. All right, you'd be like, "I'm good," and I'll go right to John Kane. But I'm calling on you. I'm volunteering Lexi Mitchell.
I didn't have anything. I just thought that was funny. Like, don't have a light bulb and not share it.
Good. It's good to see you, Lexi. John Kane, welcome. I know that you're between calls here. You've been jamming here, but I know you're able to catch the last 20 minutes or so here of Evan. You've known Evan in a couple different contexts here as well, including some other extracurricular stuff there outside of Vector. But any thoughts here for Evan, or things that are grabbing you, or things that Evan's holding out? Because he got chided a little bit for bringing the secrets earlier in the call. Dan Cassetta was on. It was like, don't give him everything.
Evan, can you wrap us up by speaking to the way you take care of your body, your spirit, family? What are some things you've done to keep yourself in a great place to be in the business for a long time? And I know that might not be a biz topic, but I've always been impressed with your level of self-care and just seeing you on trips, staying active. And if you were to share with anybody some, a quick lightning round of things that have made a difference in the way you feel throughout your day, and that would be cool.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me I'm going to bring up my slides, share my screen. I was actually prepared for this question. No, John, I appreciate it. So this is going to be my 18th summer, I guess it is. That's right. Oh shit. No, 17, something like that. And I think some things that have helped me with this is, one would be knowing that the business is evolving. So from a professional standpoint, it keeps me engaged and working differently, and that's important. For like personal, like mental and physical health, I think just a lot of the stuff that we all know we should do. I'm not always doing it, but I'm trying to make it best practice. And as an example, my goal this year is to run 1,000 miles. So I've shared it with enough people that now I have to freaking do it. So, and now I'm sharing it here and it's pre-recorded. So I got to run 1,000. So those types of things with like regular working out and taking care of my body has been pretty important for me. I'm trying to get as much sleep as I can. I'm measuring my sleep now on my ring over here, John, which you might know about, the Oura ring. And it shows that I'm sleeping pretty poorly. Okay. Cause my son wakes up all the damn time. He just cries. But he's 6 weeks, so it's okay. And then, I think something else that's it's big for me that I've shared with our region is I read a lot. I read a lot. So I'm pretty interested in consuming a lot of information from different perspectives. And so last 3 years, I read a little over 100 books. And so I've been able to get all kinds of new insights. And that's actually helpful for me because I found myself in patterns where I would be teaching the same thing, talking about the same thing. And I, frankly, as a leader, became a little disengaged and bored with that. So I found that that's really helped revivify like my interest and what I want to bring to the table. And feel like I got good shit to share, stuff to share. Sorry, recording. And, I feel like that's good stuff. You guys had Hurlman on here. It doesn't matter. You can say any kind of word. So anyway, I feel like that's helped a lot. And then digital sunrise and digital sunset, John, has been helpful. So, time when I'll allow myself to be on my phone and then off. So I stopped sleeping with my phone in my room is also really helpful for my psyche. So it stays in my office or the kitchen, which is good. And then that also helps my marriage, right? So like if I can be engaged when I need to be engaged is a good thing. So yeah, those are some things. And then, I got like the family, the kids, like that's good. My wife is wonderful and our kids are doing good. So it's cool to be engaged with them. And so that brings a different perspective too. Like it means more, right? Like I need to do well more than I ever did before. So that's it.
Thanks, Evan. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's been a long way since that conversation at P Banquet in the hot tub.
I'm still here. I can't wait for that P Banquet though. I had some withdrawals like when February or January came around. I was like, what's going on? I need to go to this again. So I also just want to express my gratitude for this group. And I know some of you guys have been on for a long time for this. And I think that's awesome that you're committed to learning and just giving me your ears today to get some of the content. I hope I was able to provide some value. And I know most people say this, right? You can reach out to me, email, LinkedIn, whatever, Instagram, whatever, you can do that. Most of you probably won't. I don't know. People don't do it, but people always say it afterwards. But I am appreciative of the group. And so thanks, Trent, for putting this together and having me on. I really appreciate it.
Man, thanks for bringing an absolutely outstanding masterclass, Evan. It was a blast. I know that this is the only thing between you and Palm Springs, so we're gonna spring you for that now. And please let Annie know that we appreciate her sacrifice for our community here today. And folks, to all of you, thank you so much for showing up great, having excellent questions and light bulb moments, and for showing up great for my friend Evan. In 2 weeks, it is going to be good. The prep for this one, this is somebody I coached from a very young age, Brett Wiggins, and we're going to be mostly freeform. So come ready with questions for Brett Wiggins in 2 weeks. We've got vacation next week here, but he'll be here the April 13th, and you'll want to be on for that one for sure live. It's going to be, I think, largely shaped by those who participate. So last one for the 2021 season. Look forward to seeing you folks in 2 weeks or less. Talk to you soon, everybody. Thanks again.